In today's video, we're going to see how we can get the most out of our lights in Blender. I have a very simple scene here, just a room, a table, and a flower, and this light here, this area light, is going to act as a window and get some sunlight for my flower. Okay, so if I go into my render preview, this is what I have right now. I just repositioned the light with all the default settings, and first thing I'm going to do is I go to my world properties and I'm going to decrease this strength value all the way down to 0. I don't want any other light source other than this light. And now this doesn't look anything like I want. So first of all, I'm going to decrease this spread value under the beam shape. Right now it's the maximum amount, 180 degrees, and I want this to be a little more focused. So I'm going to decrease this all the way down to 0. The value of 0 gives me very sharp edges. It's basically projecting this shape to whatever is in front of it. We're going to increase this later on, but right now we're going to use nodes and add some textures to our light, and we can see those textures better when it's at 0. Okay, so now we're going to use nodes, or if I go to my shading tab here, I have the same thing here, use nodes. Okay, when I click that, I get this, an emission node right here or here, they're both the same. An emission node and a light output. Okay, so this emission node gives me a color and strength. The color is the same as here, so if I go to my shaded view, if I change the color here, is the same as changing it here. But keep in mind that these two actually add up to each other. So if I put this all the way up here and this one all the way down here, now because I'm using basically complementary colors, they're the opposite sides, they cancel each other out and I get black. And this strength value is a multiplier for this power value here. So if I put a 2 here, is the same as if I put a 20 up here. Okay, so now let's see a bunch of nodes that we can use to improve our light. First of all, let's see noise. If I add a noise texture, this noise texture is actually a colored node. So if I use the color value, I get the colors and I can put the factor in here, or I can use the factor or the color in the strength instead. And I get the black and white version, which just gives me a variation of shadows here. And I can change these values. I can decrease the scale, the detail, the roughness, even distortion, and gives me something like that. And the reason that we're going to use the strength is that we can add a black body for our color, and the value of around 5000 is close to sunlight. Okay, so I'm going to add wave texture and use the factor and the strength. I'm going to decrease the scale amount, and I don't want the lines going this way, so let's see, Y or Z. Yeah, this is fine. And if I use rings, the lines would be curved, but I want the straight lines right now. And now if I increase my spread, go to my camera view, this is much nicer. And my cat is going crazy right now. I don't know if you can hear him or not. But we can still do this better. Or let me show you one more thing here. If I increase this to 0, right now I have some shadows on my flower, and if I don't want that, if I have Node Wrangler add-on enabled, I can click on my texture and press Ctrl T, or you can just manually add the mapping and texture coordinate node your wave texture, and now I can change the position. I'm sorry, it's the, which one is it? It's the Z. Yeah, I can change the position of my texture so I don't get shadows where they're not supposed to be. Okay, so I'm going to delete these, and last note I'm going to show you here is a brick texture. Okay, so this one I can use either factor or color, but if I use the factor, this is what I get. So I don't want these one to be black, I want this inverted. So if I use the factor, I have to add an invert node here, or I can just use the color and I get these color variations here because of these two color values. I can make both of these all the way up to white, and I get rid of that. Okay, so this looks like brick. It's a brick texture. Okay, so right now the brick width and the row height are this is half that amount. I want these to be square, so I'm going to change both these to 0.5 and I get squares here. And I'm going to change this offset value to either 1 or 0 because I don't want these. Right now this line is the middle, starts at the middle of the bottom row, so I'm going to change this to 0 and decrease my scale. That's okay. Now I'm going to press Ctrl T and get my mapping node, and let's rotate some of these a little bit. Okay, and the Z. Yeah, okay, it's nice. Now I can increase the spread. And I think the light is a little bit small, so I'm going to increase the size here. Just about that. And yeah, right now it looks like I have sunlight coming from a window and the scene looks much nicer with just one light. I only have this one area light, no HDRIs, no light coming from the world or any other light source, and just this simple node setup. So instead of this brick texture, I can use any other texture. I can use images or any other of these textures here. I can even have animated textures to get, for example, some leaves moving around or raindrops or dust particles or things like that, and get more realistic scene. And keep in mind, if you want your scene to be realistic, don't use RGB values for your colors. Always use a black body, and you can check online, simple search in Google for these values for candlelight, sunlight, moonlight, anything you want. Okay, so this is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this. Please leave a like down below if it was useful for you, and please consider subscribing if you want to see more videos like this. I'll see you in the next one.